We also are doing more like pre-order exclusive kinds of products that we could bring in, like collectibles. Good example of that was with Xbox. There was a Master Chief 20th Halo 20th anniversary Funko Pop that we had on the shop, and it was in pre-order, and we sold out almost immediately. I think it was on the first day.
You're listening to Ideas Fulfilled by Printful Enterprise with your host, Ilse. Today, we're joined by Robin, Vice President of Client Services at Ecommerce. Robin has more than 15 years of experience in online retail with high-profile brands in entertainment, gaming, sporting, and lifestyle industries. Welcome, Robin. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
I know we had an episode with the director of Ecommerce some time ago, but for those listeners who didn't catch that one, what is Ecommerce? What do you do?
Yeah, we're a full-service e-commerce company that focuses in on enterprise brands, and we're based in Cincinnati, Ohio. We mainly support the verticals of entertainment, gaming, sports, and lifestyle brands. I've been with Snow for about 11 years now, and I was actually the first hire. So,
oh wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride, and went from, sort of being a little bit more of everyone that came in at first was more of a generalist. And now we've gotten to the place as we've grown and we've started to focus in on enterprise, where we have all the divisions that now are going in depth and supporting each of the areas of service that we bring to market.
And how big is Ecommerce now? You were the first hire, but how many colleagues do you have now?
We have about 110 on the Snow side. And then now, of course, we're part of Printful, so much larger.
And you mentioned that you do support for brands. Like, what does it entail? What sort of support do you provide brands with?
The areas that I manage are program management, marketing, and merchandising. And then we have the areas of creative services and professional services and product design. So those are pretty much the areas that service the client. The program managers that report into me are the primary contacts with the client. So they're meeting with the clients regularly. They're working through marketing calendars, which are really a key component of our programs. They outline with the brands not only the evergreen holidays that we would be promoting, but also the key brand dates that we want to make sure are incorporated into the program, and keeping track of when new season premieres might be happening, or gaming drops, or new sporting season might be coming out, because that's really, if we align to those things, that's going to be the most beneficial to us. So they work on those calendars, and then they work with the creative team to develop the banners and all the merchandising for the site. They're going to go along with those campaigns. Mm-hmm. And then the marketing team comes in and executes around all of those components. So there's an email marketing team and a paid marketing team. So the email marketing team obviously is getting all the email marketing out the door, setting up auto flows and things like that. And then the paid side takes the paid marketing budget and divvies that up amongst channels and figures out how to use that to the best of their ability. And then the merchandising team works on developing the product for the program. So they're working really closely with our product design team, as well as with our counterparts on the Printful side and the product development area, so that we're making sure we're putting together the best portfolios for the different IP that we're trying to support.
Basically, your team does the grand scheme, how everything is going to look, yeah?
Yeah, and personally, client satisfaction and running these programs profitably is really part of what I'm challenged to do. So,
what do you think makes clients satisfied? What are the key components? Obviously, revenue comes in is the easy one, right? But what else?
I think that, making sure that we're balancing the brand's initiatives with our e-commerce focus. So sometimes there's scenarios where you have to make or adapt to support things for the brand that might not feel like they're going to drive the maximum amount of revenue, but it's really important to them to have representation for different shows and things that might not be the best sellers. So, it's the delicate balance, I think, between that, making sure we're being sensitive to their needs around just supporting their fandom, while at the same time keeping in mind how we think driving the revenue can happen the best.
And what does it mean for your team? Like, they have to be experts in basically everything, no?
Well, and when we started, that really was the case. You felt like you had to understand everything. As we've been trying to scale and grow, having those separate divisions is helpful. We do pull in team members as needed to have the right conversations if you have to get really in depth in a topic. But especially my program management team does very much have to be a generalist. They're sort of task managers, but they're touching all parts of the organization. So they have to have a real well-rounded knowledge of e-commerce.
That's great. Not an easy thing to do, I think, when so much things are happening on e-commerce.
It's very true.
So how does it look? If I own a brand that really needs some help, we go to you, and where do you start the process from? Do you get to know the brand better, or how does it usually happen?
Yeah, brand immersion is very important. I try very much to align people with things that they gravitate towards naturally. I think that that's helpful if you can do that. But otherwise, a lot of research is involved as well. Developing real relationships with the clients. We like to think of ourselves as extensions of their staff almost. I think we all have the same goals. You really think about the core pieces of e-commerce, which for one is getting the traffic to the sites. So we try to engage with the brand, finding every which way we can to drive traffic. So a lot of times we need their support in, having links to the site from their content sites, or supporting with their email marketing if we don't have a subscriber list when we're first starting a new program, or using their social channels to allow us to either do our paid social or they do organic posts for us. So a lot of it is getting the right engagement on their side to really create a successful program. We have a lot of the core pieces that we, always know that we can implement. But if you really want to get beyond, an initial stage of growth to a really robust program, I'd say you need a good client engagement as well.
On your website, you can see that you've partnered with some really great names like HBO, Xbox, Minecraft. Those are some heavy lifters, so to speak. Why do you think these big names choose to work with Snowcommerce? What makes your company special?
Well, I think that we've adapted through time to listen to what the brands, enterprise brands in particular, really need and want. And we've tried to add the services to support them. So I know one of the great things about the acquisition from Printful is being able to support more of a global market. And this is something that I don't think has been done very well in the past. So I think we have a lot of opportunity on that front. Also, they don't typically have people in-house to, do marketing, do product development, so it's really the fact that I think we're able to have sort of the full circle of support for the brand to drive these programs that is very valuable to them.
And since there are a lot of new things happening in the e-commerce area all the time, do you feel that brands are coming to you saying, hey, we want to try that? Or do you have to talk them into trying new things more?
I think that as we've had bigger and bigger clients, that there has to be a lot more conversations and pushing into new areas, especially as, with the entertainment side of things, streaming services are so important now. And so typically you might have had a link on the content site, but if you're not in the streaming service where people are actually watching the programs and they can drive back to the shop, that's really where we want to be. Same with gaming, if you can get in-game support to be able to drive to the shops, that's huge. We've gotten into more going even to events or other places where the fans are living. So that we can try to bring the product to them or use our point of sale systems and things like that to be able to continue to drive more revenue to the shops.
Have you ever had the moment when you're just walking on the street and there's someone with the product that you've developed?
Yep, it happens quite often.
It must feel very good.
It does.
And have you noticed any sort of unifying pain points or challenges that these brands that come to you have?
Well, I don't know if it's their pain point or our pain point. Is a lot of the times, we're very dependent on their content to drive people's interest and engagement. So sometimes, like right now, there's the writer's strike going on. And so show seasons are getting moved. So things that we were planning on to drive revenue this year now might be shifted into a different year. or it happened during COVID too, where this, sports season might not end up happening that you thought was going to happen. So you've got to get creative and find different ways to deal with those things as they've happened. I think too that the very high quality expectations for the brands. So, we do lean into on-demand manufacturing for a lot of our portfolio. So making sure that's consistent and great is really important to them. And there's usually a pretty good approval process that's in place for even just getting the designs approved as well as the products. So I think that's a challenge. And then I think the third thing would be competition. So some of the best IP we have already has a lot of product out in either big box retail or in other e-commerce sites. And we're competing against that. And then also counterfeit, so if other people see things trending and things happening in the market, there tends to be a lot of things that pop up that are, maybe at a lower price point than what we could even offer. And it can sometimes be a challenge, and you're constantly chasing to get those taken down.
And you mentioned that you often use on-demand production model for the merchandise. Do you feel that the attitude towards print on demand has changed from the companies over the years, or it's still pretty much a little bit suspicious?
For one thing, the variety of product has definitely changed. I know when I started working with on demand, you basically had your mugs and your t-shirts and your hoodies. And now just the amount of product that's offered is really pretty wonderful and allows for a much more premium looking experience than what you could have had 5-6 years ago, even. Their perception about on-demand, I think it just, it depends. I think the more times that we provide, they see the product and they really can appreciate the level of quality that is involved there. I think there is a little bit of people still thinking about screen printing and comparing the two. And we know the printing for DTG is a little different than what, is presented with on-demand. But I do think we haven't seen where the customers really have those same concerns. So, once you get through those initial approvals with the client, then you're usually in pretty good shape.
Have you noticed any sort of misconceptions that your customers have about e-commerce in general? Are people still reluctant to build in the online environment?
No, not at all. I think that, the COVID period really accelerated e-commerce and made so many people just pop into the space. So where, we were one of the few players that really did this, I feel like there's a lot more competition in that sense of people or even clients thinking they might want to run their own programs and things like that. So I really don't see that there's any resistance to e-commerce. It's more an acceleration than anything.
What was it like for Snowcommerce during COVID? Did you feel that there's like a sudden influx of customers?
Oh, yeah. We had a ton of growth during that period. And, it was strange because you had to bring on a lot of staff and you were bringing them on in a remote environment for the most part. We had always been 100% in office. So as a manager, that was a bit of a challenge too, of, sort of changing how you train people and, trying to scale the way we were during that time. But I mean, it was thrilling. The sales actually were so strong during that period. And we had a very strong multi-vendor network where we had, some product that had been produced by licensees or that we had produced ourselves. And then also our on-demand network, which was pretty extensive. So where some online retailers got shut down because they didn't have the ability to get the product at the door, we had enough diversity where we were able to actually still have a really strong showing during that period.
And you mentioned licensing, and could you tell for the listeners who perhaps don't know what does it even mean, licensing industry? How do you interact with it?
Most of the brands we work with are the licensors for the brand, so they own the IP rights, and then they grant them to people to create product. So we're a licensee for pretty much every brand that we work with in the entertainment and gaming space. But they give those same licenses to other companies to be able to produce product. So, the product that you see in a Walmart or a Target or something like that, that's all licensed product if it has like game branding or show branding with it. So you have to contractually, work that out before you're able to produce that product. And that's who you're usually getting approvals from, as well as, all the artwork and things that we're putting on the product blanks, that's all going through the licensor.
As the VP of Client Services, obviously, you get to work with a lot of really great customers. Is there a success story that you can share? You don't have to name names if you can't, obviously, but just a an example where Snowcommerce has provided some great solutions for brands.
So like I was thinking about Yellowstone is a TV series that's we represent on the Paramount Shop, and then Ted Lasso is on the WB Shop. And both of these I think have similarities. They both took off very big in terms of their fan base. And we saw a great success in the sales for those programs. But I think what made them so successful is that, at least for us, was that there wasn't a lot of licensed product available for those shows when we really took them on and leaned into getting a good product assortment up. There was also certain as seen on components, so things that people were wearing in the shows that were very merchandisable. So we tried our best to create those products and lean into that, and it really showed success in the sales. And we continue to see the sales, but it doesn't take that long for the licensing industry to catch up and also get products out into the market. And so that does affect our sales volume when you continue to have more and more competition. But from a first to market perspective, it's a great way to really lean into, because we can get things up a lot faster than a traditional licensee might be able to, because of the on-demand component, and also we can quickly get some bespoke product created and available.
Do you think that being first to market is essential in today's environment?
I mean, essential is an interesting word. It's to get the most sales, and then I think yes, it would be ideal. I don't think it's essential to be successful necessarily, but I would request that.
And how do you choose the products for each brand that you work with? Do you have like a specific set that you offer to them, or you try to adjust depending on who the customer is? How does it usually happen?
Yeah, I think this is a great thing about us having so many big brands that we're working with, because we do have a lot of great data around what products sell well. So first we look to that as what are our best selling products across our portfolio. And then when you're developing product for a particular IP, there's usually certain products that you want to pull in that sort of represent the IP. So if you think that home goods might do really well, then you pull some more into that space. Typically, I mean, it is sort of funny that the mugs, the hoodies, and the t-shirts are still tend to be on the top of the list. But I'd say there's probably 10 to 12 products from an on-demand manufacturing that we lean into. Then we look and see, are there on-air components? Like one other example of some success was Willie Geist has a Sunday Today show on NBC, and they have a great mug that he has his fans take pictures with, and they put it on social, and then he features his fans with his mug, and they call it mug shots. So they do that every week, and it's been one of our top sellers for forever. But it's that component of an on-air, people feel like they're part of the show. And so if we have things like that we can layer in with our on-demand portfolio, then that's like the holy grail for us.
A little bit of a futuristic question, if I may ask. Speaking about just being part of the thing that you're buying from, basically. Do you feel that at some point streaming services will make use of that? I know that some gaming services already do, where you can do in-game purchases, basically, but streaming services, I don't think do that a lot, do they?
It's being dabbled in, I think. And I do think that's the direction things are going. The closer we can get to where the content is and where the fans are, the better we're going to be. So we're constantly striving to make that happen. Sometimes there's more challenges than others. It depends who our actual client is and who we have contact with on the network side or at the gaming side. And they might only have so much control. So I think it's just, continually pushing and trying to make these things happen and having vision about how people would ideally want to shop. And we try to be on the forefront of that.
And do you have any products that you feel that brands are sort of sleeping on? I know that obviously when you say merchandise, it's usually, as you mentioned as well, hoodies, mugs, t-shirts. But is there some sort of surprising bestsellers that you've had in your experience?
Yeah, it's usually when something in particular takes off. Like it might not happen across the board. Personalized items can be really fun. And if you hit them at the right moment, they can really take off. I think we've had tumblers before that people were able to put their name on or their gaming tag or something like that. And then if it's there for the event or the moment, then it can really hit big. But yes, there are those moments. And it tends to be something that's really resonating with a particular brand that we're working with at the time.
Since obviously Printful and Snowcommerce are now working together, I'm going to ask some on-demand related questions as well. In general, how do you operate? I assume you don't have everything on demand. You also order some products in bulk, right?
We really, try to take a little bit of a conservative approach about, bringing in inventory because, of course, that increases our risk. But we have things that we know that are fairly safe bets that because of just the history of what we've seen that sells well. We also are doing more like pre-order exclusive kinds of products that we could bring in, like collectibles. Good example of that was with Xbox. There was a Master Chief 20th Halo 20th anniversary Funko Pop that we had on the shop, and it was in pre-order, and we sold out almost immediately. I think it was on the first day. So there's things like that are real draws, especially for these enterprise clients. They want to have those represented on their site and lean into some of their licensee goods. So, we try to make sure that we have some representation of that we're getting people in and excited about what's in the shop. And then also having a broader assortment that might not be available, in big box retail or on other e-commerce sites, because we do have this vast on-demand network of products that we can lean into.
Yeah, that explains it perfectly. Some things make sense to order in bulk still, even if you have on-demand manufacturing. Do brands now care more about sustainability? Do they take that into consideration much more than before?
Very much. It's very much a part of the conversation. I know not too long ago, we launched a collection for Minecraft that was organic and recycled materials, and they promoted it that way. It was a mainly Printful product. I think maybe there was a Mattel toy or something that we had brought in to support it as well. But it's part of the constant conversation. I think that brands are very sensitive in this area. I think the global supply chain and localizing shipping is going to be a key component. I know I mentioned that earlier. I think that the consolidated shipping, if we can get there, I think we have a little ways to go. But the more we can, prevent, too many packages coming to the door and that kind of thing, ideally that would be on the horizon. And the reduction of inventory waste, I think, is great because we do support a lot of second tier, third tier kind of properties that aren't going to be the biggest revenue drivers, but we're able to adapt or develop product for them, which the brands really appreciate. And sometimes they do end up really taking off, but it's not something we'd feel super secure bringing in inventory to support those. So I think that it really has helped to support the vision for the enterprise brand by being able to lean into on-demand, because you can play with it a bit and try things that aren't necessarily a proven winner.
But it's so nice when they do
yes.
sort of end up being the winners.
Exactly.
And when it comes to the end customer, do you really feel that it's a global audience rather than just being focused in one market or other?
I think that there really is a global audience. I think that you can't treat them all the same is what I'm discovering. And I still feel like I'm, very much learning on this front, but it's a place that we're really leaning into. So, the product offerings, the pricing, how different countries feel about shipping costs, all of that are things that we're having to consider. But the brands themselves really want to support and bring product to their fandom, no matter where it is in the world. So I think our challenge is figuring out how we can actually execute on that and what makes sense too, just from a investment into the brands and to the shop's standpoint of how we go about executing on that.
Do these differences in audiences also apply to how you develop your marketing plans and programs?
Well, of course, like the dates that we might be thinking about, there's different holidays and things in other countries. So that's one thing. We try to develop calendars that are specific for the shops we run in other countries. I think that from a marketing standpoint, I think the paid marketing might be slightly different, or how we're approaching and what is most resonates from the conversation with the consumers there.
Do you feel there are also differences product-wise, or people just love the things that you put out?
No, I think there is a little bit. And I think, how people might use totes more, in different countries, or reusable water bottles. I think, the US is, I think, moving in the same direction as a lot of other countries are, but I think it's already there for some of them. So it makes sense. And I think price point is another key component, though. Is, if you're offering something too expensive or not something that's competitive in that space, then it's going to be really hard to make the sale, even if the concept is great. So I think that's another challenge to work through.
As an industry expert, what do you foresee as some of the most significant challenges and opportunities for e-commerce businesses in the future?
I think that catching the trends as they happen. So especially as we work with these brands, and I've already described how the approvals can be a little bit time intensive and, take a number of steps. If you have something, and I have a good example, I think, on this one with Shop by Bravo. Bravo's a TV network, and they have a lot of reality programming. And one of the situations with them was they'd have a show air, and then the next day you'd see some phrase trending. And so we developed almost a templatized look to the design where we could put the text. And we had approved blanks and things like that, so that when those moments happened, we could pretty easily execute and get the product up quickly, because we're using our on-demand, portfolio, and they would already be almost pre-approved. So I think leaning into those kinds of strategies and knowing how to execute on it per client is going to be a key component to really hitting things when trends move so quickly. Now it's like, if you miss the 24 hours, you might miss the whole thing. So I think that's an area we'll continue to work on. And then, I mentioned before about like continually trying to bring our marketing and our product as close as we can to what's actually happening. So where people are watching the product, if they're at an event, making sure our product is present there and that they're being aware that the store exists.
What's your opinion on brick-and-mortar stores and merchandising in those? Is that still relevant when e-commerce is taking over?
I think brick and mortar will always be relevant. I think they'll never be able to support the breadth of product we do or the amount of IP. It'll always be focused in on really that, top tier. So, I know, my kids are grown now, but as a younger mother, when I was wanting to bring product into my home to support what my kids were really enjoying, if you couldn't find it in a big box retailer, you were pretty much out of luck. And now I think with the way we're approaching brands, you can really find whatever it is you're looking for. You can get personalized product to help, them represent their fandom. So, brick and mortar has its place, but I don't think it's going to replace what we do either. And
you also mentioned that there's a lot of competition out there, especially amongst the licensees. And how do you think you can stand out in that competition? I think leaning more into truly creative design that is, we're noticing, subtle references to brand really resonate. So I think continuing to develop our product design to recognize that, to have people that are fans creating those designs and products, I think that'll really, make it so that we are offering basically exclusive product continually if you have the exclusive design in your shop. Yeah, and it ties in well with what you said in the beginning, that you try to sort of connect the employees in Snowcommerce who potentially have an innate passion for that particular product. I think it's much easier to develop an amazing product if you're actually a fan of the thing that you're creating for. Right. And since we do have, over 100 employees, we have a good community here where people really enjoy talking about the brands they're working with and reaching out to other people to get ideas. And so we really try to have a community around the brands, and people know who to go to if they're, getting stuck on an idea. They're like, oh, I know who the Uber fan is. I'll see if they like the concept. So that's pretty great too. And it makes it for a fun work environment as well. Yeah, I was going to say, those must be some really great brainstorming sessions you have there. Yeah, it is. If people want to check out what Snowcommerce is doing, potentially become your customers, where should they go?
I'd say follow us on social, LinkedIn or Instagram would be great. And you can check out our website as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And thanks for joining us today, Robin.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to our conversation with Robin from Ecommerce. It was really great to chat with her about all things e-commerce, especially the stories from such great brands as HBO, Xbox, and others. So if you want to work with Ecommerce or with Printful, check us out. We're everywhere. I'm sure it's not the first time nor the last time you hear about us, so feel free to reach out to us. And don't forget to tune in to our next episode of Ideas Fulfilled by Printful Enterprise.